What's up, guys, and welcome back. I am still working on an intro. In today's video, we're going to look at some used video games that I bought on Vinted. Now, Vinted is basically like the Goodwill store, but online. It's normally used to buy vintage clothing, but recently I found out that you can buy books and video games on Vinted as well. This video is not sponsored by Vinted. Now, hopefully you've seen my Vinted book haul video at this point, so you kind of have an idea of what's going on. Now, just for full transparency here, I already shot this video and the audio got corrupted. So I won't be unboxing the games as I go. They're all sitting here in a stack to the right of me. I'm just gonna grab them and we're gonna talk about them. We're gonna talk about the game itself, why I wanted to add it to my personal collection, and the kind of condition that it's in. I will also be showing the price that I paid for each game. That way you can kind of get an idea of what games are going for on Vinted. Let me know if you guys like the little desk camera that I have going on here, or if you'd like me to do something else going forward. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about the games. So the first game I received was Fable 3 for the Xbox 360. Fable 3 came from Lionhead Studios and dropped on October 26, 2010 for the Xbox 360. With the PC version showing up in May of 2011. It moved around 5 million copies all told. Metacritic gave the 360 version an 80. In the Fable series, it sits pretty comfortably in the middle sales-wise, behind Fable 2, but holding its own against the original. It had great dry British humor, a stacked voice cast, including John Cleese as the butler Jasper, your loyal dog sidekick, and the cool second half of the game where you actually get to run the kingdom and deal with the fallout of your choices. The big knock was how simplified the combat and the RPG stuff felt compared to the earlier games, plus some technical hiccups and a sense that a bit of the old depth got stripped out. There's actually a grave in Morningwood with a Scooby-Doo nod that reads, "The guy would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling hero." Being that I was not an Xbox guy growing up, I actually missed out on playing most of the Fable games. I played a little bit of the first one, but I really want to go back and play them all. Well, maybe not the newest one, right? But this game is in great condition. It is complete in box. You know, watching the production of the newest Fable game in real time, I don't have high hopes for that one, but I am excited to go back and play the classics. All right, the second game in the Vinted lot is Final Fantasy 15 for the PS4, the Day 1 edition. Final Fantasy 15 was developed by Square Enix's Business Division 2 and launched on November 29, 2016 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, with the Windows version arriving in March of 2018. It sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Metacritic gave the PS4 version an 81. In the Final Fantasy series, it ranks as one of the stronger sellers, up there with the bigger titles rather than the mid-tier ones. Fans of the series liked the open-world exploration, the friendship between Noctis and his companions, the action combat, and the camping and cooking sequences. The main complaints were that the story felt rushed and incomplete in places, especially later on, and that some systems needed a fair bit of post-launch patching and DLC to come together properly. It started development back in 2006 as Final Fantasy Versus 13 before a major overhaul turned it into the mainline 15th entry after a long, troubled production. Now, this one doesn't have the DLC, so I'm going to have to download that, but I definitely wanted a physical copy of this, what I think is a underrated Final Fantasy game. I mean, the entire game is basically just hanging out with the boys, right? There is some fair criticisms of this game for sure, and as much as Final Fantasy 16 might be rated higher than this game feels more like a Final Fantasy game to me, if that makes sense. Plus, I mean, you know, what's more fun than having a three-way with the boys? Now, next is one that I'm probably going to mispronounce, and that is Shenmue 1 and 2 for the PS4. Shenmue 1 and 2 is the HD collection of the first two games, originally made by Sega AM2 under Yu Suzuki and ported by D3T for the PS4 version that came out on August 21st, 2018, alongside Xbox One and PC. The original sold about 1.2 million for the first game, and admittedly far less for the second, while the collection itself moved more modest numbers, around 100k plus in its early weeks, with solid but not huge long-term totals. Metacritic gave the PS4 release a 75. In the short Shenmue series, the first two are the clear sales leader, well ahead of the later third entry. The games had a detailed open world, the everyday atmosphere of 1980s Japan and Hong Kong, and the slow burn revenge story with its martial arts and investigative focus. The common complaints were the dated controls, long stretches of waiting around for the clock to advance, and some clunky QTEs that haven't aged well. The original Shenmue was one of the most expensive games ever made at the time, with a development and marketing budget estimated between 47 and 70 million that even covered part of the sequel. I have never played what I've heard are absolute classics. Have you played these classic games? Let me know in the comments below. The next game is the Ultimate Evil Edition of Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment. It launched on May 15th, 2012 for Windows and Mac, with console versions following on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2013, then PS4, Xbox One, and eventually Switch. It sold over 30 million copies worldwide. Metacritic gave the PC version an 88. In the Diablo series, it sits at the top of the sales chart by a wide margin, well ahead of the earlier games. It came with fast-paced combat, a constant stream of loot, co-op multiplayer, and a variety of classes and builds. The big complaints were the always-online DRM requirement, the controversial real money auction house that got shut down later, and some launch day server problems. It set a record as the fastest selling PC game at the time by moving 3.5 million copies in its first 24 hours. I wanted the physical copy of this because I actually really enjoyed 3. I've had my issues with 4, although I hear the latest expansion is actually pretty good, so I might hop back into 4 at some point, but 3 was just a gem. This is literally Diablo 3 in its ultimate form. Next, we actually have a PS2 game, and that is Rune Viking Warlord. Rune Viking Warlord is the PlayStation 2 port of the original Rune, developed by Human Head Studios and published by Take-Two Interactive. It launched in North America on July 30th, 2001, October 5th in Europe. The original PC version and this port sold pretty modestly overall. The PC one moved only about 49,000 copies in the US in its first year, and the PS2 edition didn't break any big numbers either. Metacritic gave the PS2 version mixed scores, landing around 53. It's the first game in the short Rune series, with a much later sequel coming in 2019. It had brutal Viking melee combat, with a Norse mythological story, and over-the-top weapon variety and dismemberment. The main knock on the PS2 port were the downgraded graphics compared to the PC, long loading times, and weaker multiplayer. It runs on the Unreal Engine and even has 2 different endings depending on whether you side with Odin or smash the last runestone for Loki. And when I seen what kind of shape that this was in and what the price was, even though I knew absolutely nothing about it, I had to go ahead and grab it. There's just so many PS2 games that I haven't played that I know little to nothing about, but I do know that you get to play as Ragnar, so I'm in. Next is a game that I've been wanting to replay for maybe a decade now, and that is Dragon Age Origins for the PS3. Dragon Age Origins was developed by BioWare and published by Electric Arts. It launched on November 3rd, 2009 for Windows, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3, with the Mac version following in December. It sold more than 3.2 million copies in its first few months. Metacritic gave the PC version a 91. As the first game in the Dragon Age series, it sits solidly in the middle, sales-wise, behind the much bigger Inquisition, but ahead of Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age has a seriously deep story, and multiple origin stories that change how the world reacts to you, the memorable companions, and weighty choices that actually matter. The main complaints were that the combat can feel a bit clunky and tactical menu heavy by modern standards, plus some inventory and interface frustration. The name Dragon Age itself came from a random name generator late in development, and the team only added actual dragons after that stuck. You know, where the game's at now, it's kind of hard to explain how good these games were at the time. But I've thought about replaying this game now for years. I actually have a little bit of damage here on the case, which is unfortunate, but not too terrible. I think it's about time for a complete Dragon Age replay. Now this game actually came sealed. I have since opened it, but I thought I was buying a used game, but I ended up getting a brand new copy of Fallout 76, which I have also never played. Fallout 76 was developed by Bethesda Game Studio and published by Bethesda Softworks. It launched on November 14th, 2018 for PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. It sold around 21 million copies lifetime. Metacritic gave the PC version a 52. In the Fallout series, it sits below the big hitters like Fallout 4, but has climbed a long way from its rough start. Fans who stuck with it like the big open world of Appalachia,
the base building, the multiplayer co-op, and how the game kept getting new story content and NPCs over the years. The main complaints were the messy launch full of bugs, the complete lack of human NPCs at the start, and some of the always online and monetization choices. It was Bethesda's first proper multiplayer game, and the map is packed with real West Virginia landmarks, plus local folklore creatures like the Mothman.
Every time I think about playing Fallout 76, I read on it and it just sounds like a disaster. So, has the game been fixed? Is it playable? Should I play Fallout 76? You know, so far, all of these games, minus that little bit of imperfection in Dragon Age Origins, have just been great, and the prices have been even better. I think Vinted is a very underrated place to buy used video games. Next, we have a game that I remember playing, maybe half of it, and thinking it was pretty weird, but also pretty cool, and that's Final Fantasy Type 0 for the PS4.
Final Fantasy Type 0, the HD version, most people played outside Japan, was developed by Square Enix Business Division 2 with help from Hexadrive and published by Square Enix. The original PSP game came out in Japan in October of 2011, while the HD remaster launched worldwide on March 17, 2015 for PS4 and Xbox One, with PC following in August. Combined, it sold a bit over 1 million copies for the HD version, plus around 750 to 800,000 for the original PSP release in Japan. Metacritic gave the PS4 version a 72. As a spin-off in the Fabula Nova Crystallis line, it sits well below the mainline Final Fantasy sales numbers. The game has a dark wartime story, a big cast of 14 playable Class 0 students you can switch between, and very fast real-time combat. Some of the common knocks were the HD upgrade felt pretty basic. The localization was rough in places, and some of the mission structure got repetitive. It started as Final Fantasy Agido 13, planned for mobile phones before shifting to PSP, and its director, Hajime Tabata, went on to helm Final Fantasy 15.
I just want every Final Fantasy game in my collection, so this is one I had to buy, but this is something that I think I'll play again at some point. I know it's different than other Final Fantasies, and you control armies and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. This one also comes with the 15 demo, which I think is, pretty neat. This next game is just pure nostalgia for me, and that's Warriors of Might and Magic for the PS2.
Warriors of Might and Magic was developed and published by the 3DO company. It launched on PlayStation on December 5th, 2000, Game Boy Color a couple weeks later, and PlayStation 2 on March 21st, 2001. Exact sale figures are hard to pin down, but it didn't move big numbers, and 3DO was already struggling at the time. Metacritic gave the PS2 version a 49. It's a spin-off in the Might and Magic series that sits way down the sales ladder compared to the main Heroes games. It had straightforward action RPG combat and loose ties to the bigger Might and Magic lore. The big complaints were clunky controls, mediocre graphics even for the time, and an overall rough feel that never really clicked. It actually started development as a sequel to the earlier Crusaders of Might and Magic, before marketing forced a full reboot with a new hero and title, and the planned PC version got canceled halfway through.
Now, I might be dating myself here, but I remember going to my local video game store and renting this game, and that was before Blockbuster even ever came to my town, right? I remember renting it on Fridays, playing it all the way through Sunday, having to take it back, and then hoping the next Friday I could get it again without someone else renting it before me. Not a very highly rated game, but a nostalgic one for me. Speaking of Dragon Age, we have Dragon Age 2 for the PS3, and this is just a great copy.
Dragon Age 2 was developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. It launched on March 8th, 2011 for Windows, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. It sold around 2 million copies. Metacritic scored it in the high 70s to low 80s depending on the platform, while the Xbox 360 version sits at 79. In the Dragon Age series, it's near the bottom sales-wise, well behind Origins and especially Inquisition. Although I personally enjoyed the tighter personal story focused on Hawke, the strong companion characters and the banter, and the faster, more action-oriented combat. Some complaints of the game were heavy reuse of environments, the shorter scope compared to Origins, and a sense that the game felt rushed. BioWare only had about 14 to 16 months to make it after EA pushed for a quick sequel, which led to a lot of crunch and cut content.
I think this is probably my favorite game of the series, and I'm pretty excited to replay it. And moving right along with more Dragon Age, we have Dragon Age Inquisition, the Ultimate Edition for PS4.
Dragon Age Inquisition was developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. It launched on November 18th, 2014 for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Windows. It sold over 12 million copies, making it BioWare's best-selling game. Metacritic gave the PC version an 85. In the Dragon Age series, it sits at the top of the sales chart by a wide margin. It had massive open-world zones, a strong companion cast and banter, incredible strategic combat, and big choices that shaped the Inquisition. Some of the complaints were the amount of fetch quest filler in the open areas, some technical issues on last gen, and a story that some felt took a while to fully ramp up. It was BioWare's first game built on the Frostbite engine, which caused a lot of development headaches. And it came with the Dragon Age Keep website, so you could import your world state from earlier games without replaying them.
After I play the first couple, of course. And finally, our last game is a PlayStation 5 game, which Vinted didn't have a ton of these when I was looking, but I actually found a really nice copy of Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Grand Blue Fantasy Relink was developed and published by Cygames, mainly their Osaka studio. It launched on February 1st, 2024 for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Windows, with a later Switch 2 version tied to the Endless Ragnarok expansion. It sold over 2 million copies worldwide. Metacritic gave the PS5 version an 80. As a console spin-off from the big mobile Grand Blue Fantasy series, it ranks as one of the stronger selling entries outside the free-to-play main game. It has fast and stylish action combat, a big roster of playable characters you can swap between, a 4-player co-op, and a solid endgame grind. The main complaints are that the main story felt a bit short or thin for some players, and the post-game quests could get repetitive. It was first announced way back in 2016 as a Platinum Games collaboration planned for 2018, but Platinum dropped out in 2019 and the game got delayed several times before finally releasing in 2024.
Which I don't know a ton about, to be honest, but it's a highly rated JRPG on the PS5, so I had to add it to the collection. It looks like something that I would love. If you played this game, let me know in the comments below. So yeah, now that I've gone through these games a second time, I am extremely happy with Vinted so far. The games are in great shape, the prices are incredibly fair. I would highly suggest you check out Vinted if you're looking to buy some used games as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you think about this style of video, because I have about 12 or 13 more Vinted packages to open, so we'll do that in part 2, if you liked this one. If you did enjoy this video, think about subscribing. We're just starting out here, so I think at the point of recording, I have 3 subscribers right now, which is, pretty solid. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.
Didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take.